All right, everybody, welcome to All right.
But I said, if you gave me Mahomes, if you gave me Lamar Jackson with his great legs and Mahomes' great arm, or you gave me Baker Mayfield, who would I want? I would want Baker Mayfield, and the reason why is because Baker Mayfield.
I really think that now this is the worst case scenario for the San Francisco 49ers is that they're going to have to cut ties with Jimmy Garoppolo if I were them. What? Oh my God! Wow, man!
In any event, Kyle Gibson is definitely my NL Cy Young Award winner. Rock on, Gibby.
And even
No way!
Oh my God!
All right, here we go. Welcome to an emergency, and I mean this, an emergency edition of Sports Weekly here on this August 23rd of 2023. I don't think we'll get a crazy hot take like Baker Mayfield over Patrick Mahomes tonight from Isaiah. Hopefully never, ever again. But here with me, I'm hosting just for this show today. I got Isaiah Leonger tonight. And Ben Cruz, how are you guys? I'll start with Isaiah. How are you, Isaiah?
Well, James, I was having the night of my life because of what transpired this afternoon with Sam Darnold winning the quarterback job over Trey Lance. And to Loro's point from the intro, he mentioned that was the worst case scenario for the San Francisco 49ers then. Well, I think the worst case scenario just came to fruition today in a stunning decision, but we'll talk about that later on. But I was getting all ready and hyped up to come on the show and proclaim how Brock Purdy is the second coming of Tom Brady. And, this is the greatest moment ever and yada, yada, yada. And then the news breaks and that, and that your Angels suffer another massive catastrophic injury. And it basically throws the entire offseason now into complete flux. And, I can't wait to talk about it, man. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Jam-packed show, emergency show, man. But I'm just here to hear what you have to say, James, about that first topic, which I can't wait for.
I don't even want to get into it. But, hey, Ben, how is everything going on the East Coast?
Good. I just hopefully you guys are doing well. And I know, James, obviously, when we talked last, you were going through that storm, I guess you could call it. I don't know how it really was, if it was anything. And then Isaiah, obviously the best news of the 49ers. I saw that news at work. And now specifically, I have a bold take that we'll talk about possibly with Trey Lance and some destinations, because it was pretty much on my mind. I was at work of where maybe he can go. And then obviously the Red Sox had a massive win tonight. We'll talk about that as well too. And James, I'm sorry. That's all.
Okay, so as we come on tonight at 10:23, two-way star Shohei Ohtani. After having a start today, the first game of the doubleheader against Cincinnati, it revealed a UCL tear in his right ulnar collateral ligament. It was announced Wednesday night. There's no word on whether he'll need surgery or not, but most likely. This happened before, by the way, in I want to say 2018, 2019, I think it was already happening. There's no timetable on will he hit, but this definitely will signal he will not pitch again. It's big breaking news because of the and thank you for the picture right there, him exiting the mound today. Yeah, torn ACL or UCL, and again won't pitch today according to Orange County Register's Jeff Fletcher. He's got some real great in-depth team analysis there, but yeah, he left with the injury. He didn't really know. At first, it was announced that he had fatigue. And I'm thinking, well, I can see that. It's a hot day in Anaheim. That makes sense. But, yeah, as the day went on, he went on to hit in tonight's game, the second game of the doubleheader. Let's see. What did he do?
1 for 5.
Yeah, that's what it was. I was in and out of the game. Yeah, 1 for 5 there. Of course, the Angels lost both games, but it's something to me that I think somebody questioned on Twitter. And so let's get this timeline straight. The Angels weren't sure if Shohei Ohtani would be able to pitch today or not. He wasn't feeling 100%. So right away, you caution him. And then he never stops himself. He always wants to go out there. He always wants to pitch. He never stops himself. He has to tell Phil Nevin whenever he wants a day off, from the lineup, from a start or delay start. But they decided to throw him out there anyway. A meaningless game in August, 10.5 games back of, a wild card spot. And now he'll need Tommy John again, the second time in his career. And going, of course, into the offseason, he was the number one, desired player in free agency. And now I don't like, I've been getting opinions all over the place where, hey, you wouldn't even give him 5. You would give him 5 years or less because we know the issues that he has with his injuries. So basically, he'd turn into a glorified DH. He would pitch off and on. There is, I would say, concerns that the sweeper was an issue. He started to throw that more often this year. And before that, it was, we wondered, okay, is he throwing too hard on his fastball? Because he used to go 101, 102, and then he had his first UCL surgery. And now this one may be believed to be because of his sweeper. But, okay, that happened. And then just minutes ago, I got the news that Mike Trout, and this was more realistic. He came back from the ham bone tear. He hasn't played since July 3rd, and he played on Monday. He came back, and he hasn't really done much with that. He played in the first game today, but not in the second. And there was a reason why. Everybody was wondering, why didn't he play in the nightcap? Well, he has soreness again in the ham bone, and I think the team didn't want to try to put him out there more this season. Just give it a go and see how it went, basically. And I thought it was premature that Mike Trout was going to even come back this year and try it. And okay, so getting back to Ohtani, there's something here that says, well, if this requires his second Tommy John surgery, he's not pitching until 2025, and that's a real possibility. So, guys, for me, being an Angel fan, it's like two things coming at me at the same time. I never have any, luck in my teams, it seems like. But this is like, it'll be 10 years, or no, 9 years without the play, or last time they went to the playoffs, 8 years of not, and then 8 straight years of losing seasons. So it's like, it's amazing. Now you have to wonder this, and this is where I'll ask you guys first about the Ohtani injury. and then what it means for himself, for his free agency coming up, and what it means for the Angels for the rest of this year. I'll start with Isaiah. So yeah, Isaiah. So for Ohtani's injury, what does it mean for him and his free agency, and then for the Angels going forward?
This is a massive blow to not only the Angels, not only to Shohei Ohtani, but the fans all across baseball. Because, Shohei Ohtani was one of the most, if not the most dynamic athlete we've seen in all of sports in the history of sports since Babe Ruth. I mean, this guy could pitch great. He could throw 100. He had some nasty off-speed stuff like that splitter and the sweeper, like you mentioned, James. And also, this guy could hit the baseball. Imagine this: he threw it 100 plus, and he could hit the ball 110 miles an hour. I mean, it's insane. Like, this guy was on the cusp of, potentially being, the MVP and also Cy Young of baseball, and he almost could have had that like a couple of years ago as well. It's just a massive blow. This, by no means ends his career, but for Shohei, this is a massive blow because you can kiss that 10-year, $600 million contract out the window now, because you're not going to be pitching most likely until like 2025. And even when you return to pitch, I don't think Shohei Ohtani will be more than just a reliever, because when you guys look at the history of baseball, when has there ever been a guy that's come back from Tommy John surgery, not once, but twice, and had a successful career as a starter? I mean, I think Noah Syndergaard is one of the guys that's done it, but, he's not the same following his second Tommy John surgery. I know Jacob deGrom is having his third Tommy John surgery. We'll see how he is when he comes back. I doubt he's going to be the same. And Ohtani, by the time he comes back, he's going to be 32 from the elbow surgery, most likely. And, he's going to not have that 100-mile-an-hour plus fastball anymore. He's probably going to dip down to like more likely 90-something. The off-speed stuff, who knows if he'll have that. It's a big blow for him. He'll still get a big contract, don't get me wrong, because he's a way better hitter than he is as a pitcher. But I just think that now, if you're thinking about the contract that he'll get, I think it's more along the lines of what Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Aaron Judge got, which is in the 10-year, like 300 plus range than the 400 then 500 million that he would have gotten if he would have stayed healthy. And this is a big blow, for the Angels, because I know we were supposed to talk about the Angels later on. Mike Trout returned from the injured list, and then he got injured again, which, I mean, I feel bad for you, James, because it just seems like your luck can just never get any better. But, I mean, any glimmer of hope the Angels have of making the playoffs, that's gone now. And the thing also I'm worried about if I'm an Angels fan is how long is he going to be out? Because remember the last time he blew out his elbow, he missed like 2 months before he could hit again. So this could potentially take Ohtani out of the lineup for the rest of this year, and also take Ohtani out on the mound for the rest of this year, as well as next season, and maybe a little bit more into 2025. So this is a massive blow for all parties involved. I feel so bad for Shohei. I feel so bad for Angel fans. I feel so bad for the Japanese fans that always show up on a consistent day in and day out basis for him. And it's just, it sucks for baseball in general. And, you never want to see this happen. This was my biggest worry going into the season was, Shohei was in line for that massive contract. Everybody was talking about, oh my God, Shohei could get 10 years, 600. Shohei is going to be the highest paid player in not only baseball history, but all of sports history. And now all of that is out the door because of this injury. And, he's never going to be the same again, especially as a pitcher because of this.
All right, Ben, same question. What do you think this will mean for Shohei in the offseason? And then how does this affect the Angels?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, James, I just feel awful for you. I feel awful for the Angel fans. But I, as a baseball fan myself, just reading this stuff tonight, it's sickening. It's sick to my stomach. As a baseball fanatic myself, it's we haven't had many type of players like this before ever. At least specifically in my childhood or in many people's childhoods, for a guy that, like you mentioned, Isaiah, that can throw 100 miles an hour and then hit. He's almost at 50 home runs this year. I mean, it's incredible. It's really hard to kind of put into words. And just it's really tough to see this injury happen, specifically too, where the Angels are kind of out of it. They could have theoretically shut him down pitching. I know, James, too, that he was leaving a lot of games pitching wise the last couple of times out like early. And I'm just thought to myself specifically, like, maybe you could shut it down a little bit. I know he probably didn't want to, give in terms of what he has, off season, stuff like that. But, for a guy that's already had a Tommy John in the past, and you're already out of the playoffs at this point in time, is, you don't have to want to play it safe. But the crazy thing about Shohei is, man, it's just a lot to your body over time too. It's crazy how, at least it came to a point in time like this that he wasn't, having any type of injuries, and, injuries suck as it is. And just the way this happened, it sucks for Angel fans. It sucks for the baseball community. Even people that don't like baseball watch this guy specifically play. That's how big of a figure this guy is to everyone out there. So I was fortunate enough, privileged enough to see this guy play in person this year. I'm very blessed to see it happen against my Red Sox at Fenway. And just even after games are done, just being outside of the stadium, seeing this guy, even get on the bus, it just crowds of people, just really tough to see a figure like this. It's honestly like, I'm not, being a little biased here, but like seeing a figure like Tom Brady, right? A guy specifically that everybody wants to go see at a specific place, it's just kind of the overall vibe, right? But, he's doing it, pitching and hitting. It's crazy. So in terms of the contract, I agree with Isaiah. Obviously this guy now has 2 Tommy Johns happening. Obviously teams are going to still want to pay him because he still is that talented, but he might not get the same type of contract he might have anticipated in the past now because of these injuries, and a lot of general managers and owners are not going to want to take on a guy now that has 2 different types of Tommy John injuries, from this past. So it's crazy. It sucks. In terms of Trout, it sucks for him too, because I feel like that Mike Trout, he's still been a great figure in today's game, but I feel like now he kind of, I'm not say underrated, but I feel like he kind of gets underlooked with now how big Shohei really is to that Angels team. And it sucks for him specifically because when he's out there on the field, they're a better team. Baseball's in better hands. And now with both of them gone, it's just a really tough day for baseball as a whole. And I wouldn't be surprised personally if they just shut Shohei down for the rest of the season, both batting and hitting. As painful as for me to say, because I love to see Shohei bat too. Heck, he had a home run today when he, first game, of the season. So he's just much watched every day, and it's so tough to see, man. It really is.
Yeah. Since this is breaking news, we went with this first, but I'll end it on this, and then we'll get to the team reports and MLB later on, and that's when, we'll really get through the fertility that has been the Angels as of late, or since the trade deadline. But, there was a question about, getting a 10-year contract for Shohei. And then in 5 years, he would have to pick either one or the other. Would he be a pitcher full-time, or would he be a hitter full-time? And maybe this has become one of the clues to an answer, where if he's continuing to get hurt pitching, well, he might just be a DH for all those years. You just never know. But, that was the breaking news, so it was monumentous to lead off with that for sure. Let's quickly get to our NFL segment, and let's get in some football. I mean, finally something that we can talk about after a while. Yes, Isaiah. Speaking of monumentous, but in a huge move, the San Francisco 49ers on Wednesday named Sam Darnold as their backup quarterback to Brock Purdy, thus demoting their former third overall pick Trey Lance to a third string quarterback position on the depth chart. And according to multiple NFL insiders, Trey Lance's future in San Francisco or Santa Clara following today's decision is extremely murky and unclear, and the Niners will explore all options, including trading him. So let's get to Isaiah, since he's got the shirt, since he put up the picture up here of Darnold beating out Trey Lance. What is your reaction to Darnold beating out Lance, and what does this mean for Trey Lance moving forward?
This is the topic that I thought we were going to start off the show with, but unfortunately with the Shohei news, we weren't able to start off with this. But I've been wanting to come on these airwaves and talk about this for like the last 7 to 10 hours, man. I've been so excited for it. I was stunned by it when I woke up to this news. But let me just say this. My initial reaction to this news was holy bleep. Like, I could not believe that the Niners actually made this move. I really could. Sorry about that. I had some technical issues over there, but I accidentally muted myself. But I could not believe that the 49ers actually did this because, Sam Darnold had looked good in practice. The reports on Twitter were trending towards Sam Darnold over Trey Lance. But in my mind, I just kept thinking, they're not going to do it. They just can't do it because you not only did you trade 1 first-round pick, not only did you trade 2 first-round picks, you traded 3 first-round picks to get this guy. And so I was like, there's no way that the Niners would put him as a third stringer because, James and Ben, you guys probably know, if you put someone as a third stringer, especially where they were drafted, if they were drafted in the top 10 or even in the first round, you're basically admitting that, you made a mistake. The guy is a bust. You're giving up on him. And so I never thought the Niners were going to do it. And so that's why when I woke up to this news from Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport saying the 49ers, that Sam Darnold has 1 quarterback 2 job and that he beat out Trey Lance and that Trey Lance's future is now in flux, I was like, holy bleep. I just could not believe it whatsoever. And, let me dive into all these 3 quarterbacks from on their perspectives. But, like you mentioned, James, it's a monumental day for the 49ers organization. It's a day where they admitted that the Trey Lance pick was a massive mistake. And it's basically them saying that, hey, we picked a bus. And now we got to move on. And let's start with Brock Purdy. What does this mean for Brock Purdy? Ben and James, this means that now Brock Purdy is the unofficial franchise starting quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to bring up a historical reference. I'm going to bring up a historical reference for what this day means to Brock Purdy. Ben and James, this is the football version of King Charles III's coronation. Kyle Shanahan basically today handed the keys to Brock Purdy and said, son, lead us to the promised land. That's what he did. It's the crowning moment of Brock Purdy as now the king of San Francisco football. And, Prince Brock became King Brock today of the 49ers. And expectations are going to be so high now on Brock Purdy because you basically chose a 7th-round pick, a guy that was the last pick of the draft, over a guy that was the number 3 overall pick. So Brock Purdy, he's the guy now in San Francisco. He's going to be Mr. Franchise in San Francisco. The last threat to his job is gone goodbye now. And he's got to ball out, and he's got to reward the Niners' faith in him for sure. You look at for the Niners, Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, he's the backup. For Sam Darnold, it's like a revival of his career. He's now the guy that's going to be backing up Brock Purdy. But I think in the general view of things, Kyle Shanahan, by choosing Sam Darnold, he basically said, Sam, I want to fix your career, and I know how to fix your career and how to revive your career. And I think Sam Darnold could be a better quarterback now because of it. And for Trey Lance, he's gone. He's done in San Francisco. No other way about it. The Niners, like I said earlier, they basically admitted that, we gave up all these picks to draft Trey Lance. It was a massive mistake. We drafted a bust, and now it's time to move on. And I think James and Ben, Trey Lance never got a fair shot in San Francisco. I feel like he always got unlucky breaks, or he got unfair treatment in San Francisco. I think that, you look at what happened when he first came in. The Niners were so close. All the players were so close to Jimmy G, and none of them wanted him to be gone. But then the front office listened to Twitter, and they made the move to get Trey Lance, hoping that it could be the Patrick Mahomes move for the 49ers. But that never ended up coming to fruition. And then Trey Lance was kind of like the guy that everybody was like, you're the guy that kicked out the guy that we love the most. You're the guy that basically ended the Niners' career of Jimmy G, who we love so much. So I just think that from the beginning, Trey Lance was always behind the 8 ball when it came to getting respect from his teammates. I thought he never had the locker room to begin with, and I thought that the Niners players just never really respected him from the beginning. And then he struggled in practice. He had the arm fatigue thing. And then, when he actually got to start, game 2, he breaks his leg. And then he was out for the year. Brock Purdy comes in midway through the season, and he balls out. And, going into this season when Trey Lance was healthy, Brock Purdy was always going to be the starter, and Trey Lance was always going to be the backup. So I always thought from day one, he was always climbing up the hill. He was never going to be the guy, the franchise quarterback for the Niners. And now I'd be interested to see where he goes, and I'd be interested to see what the Niners can get back for him, because I just don't think you can get a high pick or even a lot in return for Trey Lance, who has only played 4 games for the Niners. But this is basically the end of the Trey Lance era in San Francisco, and it's the start of the Brock Purdy era in San Francisco. And Brock Purdy was officially coronated today as the franchise quarterback of the 49ers.
All right, Ben, what's your reaction to Sam Darnold being out Lance, and then what does this mean for Trey Lance moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a massive move, a massive decision that Kyle Shanahan and company made for the 49ers. But yeah, I mean, this is basically now the Brock Purdy led team for the foreseeable future. And I think that last year kind of really proved it. I think really between John Lynch and Shanahan, they really saw that this guy has a lot of abilities. He's basically the distributor to all the key guys that the 49ers have on offense, whether it's McCaffrey, Ayuk, Samuel, Kittle, company. And Sam Darnold, obviously a guy that was seeing ghosts over with the Jets when he was playing with my Patriots for a while. Obviously, he's had some decent moments here and there. I remember that he went to USC. A lot of people were high on him over in college. And, over with the Jets, he really just kind of wanted to put himself together over there. But obviously him going to the Niners, I really think specifically he could really change his career over there too, because he doesn't really have to do a lot. Obviously he just has to get the ball to the guys out there that have a lot of ability, and if he gets the fair shot, he gets the fair shot. I agree with Isaiah in terms of for Trey Lance too. I just didn't feel like he got a fair shot. Unfortunately, he had a lot of injury problems in the past, and he just never really got a fair chance to start on a full-on season. It just always happened to have kind of something really kind of, happen, in a case for him. And I got a flaming hot take for Trey Lance. I think that there's 3 teams that I would really take a look at as we kind of have some teams to start cutting down rosters, which we maybe could talk about as well tonight specifically too, because that'll open up some trade season, right? And I think Trey Lance is going to be traded before the start of this regular season. And my 3 teams to look out for is the Tennessee Titans. I don't think specifically that the Tennessee Titans have a starting quarterback that they are trusting right now. My second team is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that the Buccaneers, specifically right now, have no starting quarterback, obviously, that is full firm. Yes, they have Baker Mayfield, but do you really want Baker Mayfield to be your starter over Trey Lance? I feel like Trey Lance can maybe edge him out. And Stephen Wayne, the Minnesota Vikings. I personally think that Kirk Cousins is in a make-or-break type year. He could be out there on the market this offseason. You might need a quarterback. Watch out for the Minnesota Vikings for Trey Lance. So I think personally right now that there's going to be teams out there that are looking for Trey Lance right now because right now, and Isaiah said it best, he's gone. He's the third string. Yes, he's going to be playing. Actually, Isaiah and James, I got a notification that Trey Lance is scheduled to start in the third preseason game for the 49ers. And this basically could be a tryout for a team specifically that might want to go take him. So, there's just a lot to kind of take into this. Brock Purdy is going to be the starter for the foreseeable future and deservedly so. Sam Darnold, credit to him to beat him out of camp. And Trey Lance is all but gone. And I personally think that the Titans, Bucs, and the Vikings are 3 teams to watch out for Trey Lance.
I love, Ben, that you answered our second question in this segment because I was going to bring that up. And Tennessee was one of the teams on my radar. I didn't even think of Tampa Bay because, Isaiah wanted Baker Mayfield over Patrick Mahomes. So I'm thinking, he's untouchable there in Tampa. Kyle Trask is there as well. Minnesota one, hey, that makes sense if they don't want to, continue to pay Kirk Cousins over the years. Yeah, I can see that. Injuries may come up on certain teams. And that might happen. That you might need a quarterback. What if a contender just needs a quarterback just to go out there and just play? That could happen. Yep. Look at Miami. With Tua.
Yeah.
Don't know if he's going to play the whole season. Probably not. Knock on wood if you're a Dolphin fan. So, Isaiah, since Ben asked, and I said this as well with Tennessee, didn't even think of Tampa Bay. Isaiah, I'll ask you, what are some of the potential suitors that you could see Trey Lance going to in the National Football League?
Well, before I give my teams, I do need to respond to one of the points that Ben made about Trey Lance starting on Friday night against the Chargers. I think that's just a thing that's just set right now, but I don't think it's set in stone. I think Trey Lance will actually get traded in the next 24 to 36 hours because I think that today, after the news came down that he was going to be the third string quarterback, he missed practice. He did not practice today. He didn't show up at all for practice. I heard he was in Shanahan and Lynch's office just talking to them. And if I'm the Niners, there's no way I would even have Trey Lance on the field. Heck, there's no way I would even have Trey Lance on the sideline to mitigate the possible event that he gets hurt during that preseason game and you lose any potential value that you could get back. I would trade him right now just to try to recoup something. But in terms of the teams, I think the teams that you guys mentioned made a lot of sense. Tennessee, Rand Carton, their new GM, he was from San Francisco. He knows Trey Lance. Mike Vrabel, the coach there. I think that for the Titans, like you guys mentioned, I just don't think the Titans have the franchise quarterback. I just don't think that Malik Willis is the guy, or Ryan Tannehill is definitely not the guy. Will Levis.
Will Levis.
Yeah, Will Levis. He's not the guy. I don't think he is. He needs time to develop. So I think Tennessee's definitely an option. Plus, I think with Tennessee, I think Trey Lance could help their offense because you would have a running threat in addition to a running threat quarterback in addition to the running backs as well. So I think that could be a good fit. Minnesota makes sense. I know Minnesota is where Trey Lance grew up, and Trey Lance, there was talks in the offseason that he could potentially go to. But I got a hot take for you guys. How about Washington? The Washington Commanders. Eric Bieniemy worked with Patrick Mahomes. A lot of people have been saying that, like, Lance is kind of like a poor man's version of Mahomes. You know, they look alike. You know, they kind of play alike. You know, both strong arms, mobile. You know, when Mahomes first came into the league, he wasn't really like that polished like he is now, and he was more of like a project. Like Trey Lance is now. So maybe with Eric Bieniemy there, Eric Bieniemy could develop him just like Patrick Mahomes and kind of run an offense similar to what Mahomes does. Maybe that can help him. So I think you got to throw the Commanders in there because I just don't think Sam Howell, like as much as I think that, you know, he could maybe be the guy, but I don't trust him right now to be the definitive guy in Washington.
And Jacoby Brissett, I believe, is the backup in Washington, right? So, okay, Ben. So, what's your one more team that you could think of? I have one for you, but let's see if we match up right here.
I actually have two that I added. So, the New Orleans Saints. I think personally, like Derek Carr is their starter, but Jameis Winston has had a lot of injuries in the past. I think personally that him being a backup there could be okay. And James, back up in Vegas. Jimmy G being the starter. He has injury problems. No, I'm not even kidding. I'm not kidding. Because personally, I don't know specifically Trey Lance is going to get any opportunities out there to be a starter. I think he could be, but this is kind of really throwing a type of team out there, and I really think possibly Vegas could happen. I don't think he would be in my top three, but I'm just kind of saying potentially being as a potential other team that I could see it happening if a backup is needed.
That would be a Raider move. Let's get all of the 49er injured quarterbacks. Let's just get them all on the Raiders and just play them. Okay, Ben.
Yes.
The Patriots.
So
you don't believe in Mac Jones. You don't believe in Bailey Zappi, right?
I'm a Mac guy. But, obviously, personally, I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think it's really a need because Bill O'Brien specifically, he knows Mac Jones specifically from these Alabama days. There's already connection there. I remember that before they got O'Brien, they're looking at Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson has a lot of similar traits as Trey Lance. In a way, he's more of a mobile running quarterback. I don't think specifically that Bill Belichick wants to bring a guy in specifically that has mobile ability. Heck, I remember that when Aaron Rodgers was even out there, people were saying, but the Patriots even look at Aaron Rodgers. They asked Bill Belichick a couple days ago. He was just like, I don't even remember any type of talk about that. So, I mean, with 3 first-round picks, too, with Trey Lance, yes, they might not be a specific trade package to that extent, but I think personally what I've been at least hearing from Albert Breer for Sports Illustrated is during this trade kind of look as of right now, the Patriots, they're looking at some more skill help, whether it's potentially a Cortland Sutton, whether it's potentially, some guy out there receiver. Heck, I wouldn't be shocked if the Patriots took a trade to look at Hunter Renfrow. That seems like specifically a Bill Belichick type of move. He plays in the slot. He can miss guys miss. And Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels, obviously, they could have the potential match there. I obviously don't know anything about that. But I think personally with Trey Lance and the Patriots, would I love the fit? Of course. But I just don't realistically see it happening around, especially because they have a guy like Malik Cunningham that already has built the hype already in preseason. That is essentially kind of like a poor man's type of a guy like a Trey Lance already, who could probably be on the practice squad. I think Bailey Zappi would probably be the 2. Mac, of course, be 1. So, yes, could I see it? Sure. It's highly doubtful, though.
I was just thinking about, since those quarterbacks are question marks, I mean, he could go anywhere to back up anyone. I think Isaiah put that in the private chat, and that would be exactly a place that you would go just to learn from Pat Mahomes in Kansas City. But would Trey Lance do that, being drafted 3rd at that status overall? I think he would want to go try to be the starter wherever he goes right away. That's just what I would feel about someone who got drafted that high, and the expectations are right there. Speaking of trades, y'all, you got a point, Isaiah?
Call me crazy, you guys.
Crazy.
If I'm the Chicago Bears,
No.
If I'm the Chicago Bears, I would move on from Justin Fields and get Trey Lance. Because I don't believe that Justin Fields is a NFL caliber quarterback moving forward. And I think that Trey Lance is the skill set to play in the league. I just think he needs to get a fair shot. And I think with the Bears, you put him in that offense, run-heavy offense, a team that doesn't have any expectations, a team that most likely will be a top 4 pick team again. Put him in there, let him develop. And then, you see what he has in him. But I think right now, if we're just talking about who's the better quarterback or who has the better potential, I would pick Trey Lance over Justin Fields. I just don't see Fields translating into like even a solid NFL starter. I think Lance just has so much potential where if he can get good coaching, if he can get good development, which sadly he wasn't able to get in San Francisco, if he can get good coaching and good development, I think he would be a pretty darn good quarterback for any team.
Let me say this real quick, and this is only my opinion. Justin Fields has been skyrocketed to a bunch of media's, fanboys to he's going to be a star, right? And he's got the offensive line. He's got a few weapons. Now he has to prove it. And he's played more than Trey Lance. So I just think that the Bears are going to ride with Fields until there's an injury or if he really, really plays poor. So I can't see that. But anything is possible, literally. So speaking of trade talk, the Colts have given star running back Jonathan Taylor permission to seek a trade after previously declining his request for a trade. And according to Stephen Holder of ESPN, at least 6 teams have made an offer to Indy or have shown interest in Jonathan Taylor, including the Miami Dolphins. Really, for me, I'm here in Miami. I can see Buffalo. You can see an NFC team as well that needs a little bit more running back depth. But, Ben, where do you see Jonathan Taylor going in a trade if the Colts give him that well, they already gave him permission, but if it actually happens, where do you think Jonathan Taylor will end up?
Yeah, so this obviously is massive news, that I think Jonathan Taylor is probably going to be the biggest piece that will be going at this. I guess you could say it's like I wouldn't say like a trade deadline, but it's more like a second type of, off-season type of free agency, I guess, in a way, right before, the season roster cuts, opens up some cap for some teams. I have him potentially either going to the Dolphins because obviously I feel like they were in on Dalvin Cook for a while, or the Eagles. And I think if the Eagles got him at running back, that would probably make them Super Bowl contenders once again because their defense is already very stout, especially their front. Jalen Hurts, I'm a massive Jalen Hurts believer. You have A.J. Brown already, Devontae Smith. You put Jonathan Taylor with DeAndre Swift already in that backfield. My goodness. I mean, Howie is also a very aggressive guy, looking at trades and stuff in the season. I know that it's probably going to take a little bit of a toll for it to happen, but I would say between either the Dolphins or the Eagles, my sleeper team right now probably is going to be the Bills. I know James Cook obviously has a lot of ability, but I think that you put Taylor with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. I think personally that, they're probably going to win the AFC East again. It pains me to say, but so even if they even don't get Taylor, but you really, Jonathan Taylor specifically, he was leading rushing yards, or I think yards and touchdowns a couple of years ago. Last year, obviously, I believe he got hurt. He wasn't as good last year, but he still has a ton of ability. Loved him from Wisconsin, and he's going to go down as probably the massive fish, I guess you can say, before the season starts on the 7th of September.
All right, Isaiah, where do you see Jonathan Taylor going in a trade from the Colts?
You guys ready for this?
No.
I got him going, and I hope that, I don't know if this is going to come true, but this is just a flaming hot take that I have. I got Jerry Jones and the Cowboys getting him. I think if you're the Dallas Cowboys, is it correct that Tony Pollard never got extended? I don't think he got an extension, right?
I thought he did.
Or
franchise tag.
I think he's on the tag. Yep.
Yeah.
He's on the tag. Okay, so if I'm the Dallas Cowboys, I would move on from Tony Pollard, given his injury, that brutal injury that he suffered in the NFC Championship game. And I would go get Jonathan Taylor. And the reason being is because Jonathan Taylor is younger. Jonathan Taylor is a better running back right now. I know Jonathan Taylor is injured a little bit right now, but he's still better than Tony Pollard. I just think with Jonathan Taylor, I really do believe Dallas would be instant Super Bowl contenders with him, because you would have Dak there, you would have Jonathan Taylor there, you would have the receivers there with CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks and company. Like, that would be a great fit. And remember, Mike McCarthy has said that, hey, what we want to do this upcoming season is we want to run the ball. We want to be more of a run-heavy offense, and so we don't put a lot of pressure on Dak Prescott. I think the Cowboys make a lot of sense, and I think with Jerry Jones's history, given the fact that he always likes the shiny toys, with him liking those shiny toys, I could see Jerry Jones being so tempted and pulling the trigger on trading like a first-round pick to get Jonathan Taylor, and then giving Jonathan Taylor that massive extension that he wants. And I don't know if players on tags are able to be traded right now, because I know there's specific rules, but if I'm Dallas and Tony Pollard's eligible to be traded, I would try to swap Jonathan Taylor for Tony Pollard for Jonathan Taylor. I think that makes a lot of sense. You would get better, you would get younger, and you would honestly get a guy that's more healthy than Tony Pollard has been in his short NFL career.
Okay, Ben, let's try to match up, because we both have another team option here for Taylor. Let's go. Let's say the team after I say three on 1, 2, 3. Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3. Cincinnati.
Bears.
Why Chicago?
I think personally that, they have a lot of decent number 2 running backs. They have Khalil Herbert. They have Deontay Foreman. But, the Bears have a ton of cap space. They were one of the top teams in cap last year. I feel like Ryan Poles really has made a lot of moves, that have really kind of tried to help the offense specifically. Right, they already got DJ Moore. He's going to be a nice fit there. You put Taylor in the backfield with DJ Moore. You have Kmet. You already have, of course, you have Fields there. The Bears can make some, I'm not obviously saying that they're going to win the division or anything, but they could be an interesting team because I think if you put Taylor in the backfield with Fields there, and Fields is already mobile running back, you have an outside throw with DJ Moore. There, you could definitely be onto something a little bit there. So defensively, of course, they got Edmonds. They also got, I believe, somebody in the secondary. I'm not specifically sure who it was again, but I don't think specifically that the Bears are going to be one of the top teams for him. But there's 6 teams, I believe, that are going to be looking at him, and I wouldn't be shocked if the Bears might have been one of the teams that is going to be looking for him. With the Bengals, that's really interesting, right? Because I think that Joe Mixon already cleared his court case. So I think he's going to be running back 1. I don't think specifically that Jonathan Taylor wants to be in a potential trade to be anything below a running back 1.
That's true.
So,
yeah. I don't know if I trust Joe Mixon going forward. I know the Cincinnati Bengals they feel like they can win the Super Bowl or go back to the Super Bowl in a year right now. And I feel like they would make a move to progress to that. Maybe they see Kansas City losing a little ground. They've already defeated Buffalo last year in the playoffs. I think that'd be a big move to move things up to where they could be number 1. And I also hear the LA Rams out there, the Chargers. Both have a lot of questions on their teams. Both aren't really contenders right now, I feel like. So I can see that with the LA teams, definitely. So let's get to the next topic here in the NFL segment. So Seahawks rookie wide receiver Jackson Smith Njigba, hopefully I said that right, has surgery. Njigba, there we go. Njigba
Yes.
has had surgery to repair a broken bone in his hand and will miss 3 to 4 weeks. His availability for the start of the season is unclear. I'm saying for sure week 1 he won't be on the field playing. I guess I'll go to Isaiah first because this is in his division. He got to see the Seahawks up close kind of in that first preseason game. What's your reaction to Jackson Smith how do you say it again, Ben? I'm sorry.
Jackson Smith Njigba.
Njigba,
yes.
Njigba. Okay, here we go. So what's your reaction, Isaiah, to him missing the first part of the season?
I don't think he's going to miss the first part of the season. I think he's only going to miss like the first week, maybe the first 2 weeks of the season. But, it sucks because he was a very talented receiver. I saw him when I went up to Seattle for Seahawks Vikings, and he made some really nice catches against the Vikings. And, it sucks if he doesn't play the first week because look at the Seahawks wide receiving corps, fellas. You have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith Njigba being your number 3 wide receiver. I mean, that could potentially be an absolute electric core for the Seattle Seahawks. But it's going to suck not seeing him the first couple of weeks if he does miss it, just because, that would be an electric wide receiving corps. But, good thing he got it now and he's getting it fixed now. So that way he'll be healthy throughout the entire season. But I mean, Seattle's going to have like a really good electric receiving corps for years to come with DK and Lockett and Jackson Smith and Njigba. And you can't double like all 3 of them. You got to pick your poison to see which one you want to hurt you. And I don't know who you want to pick because all 3 guys can do extreme damage. And they're all 3 are electric receivers, but I hope for the best, hope for a successful surgery and a speedy recovery because he's one of the top young receivers that are very entertaining for our game.
All right, same question, Big, for Njigba missing the first couple of games possibly with the hand surgery.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, even as an Ohio State fan, and Steven, shout out, go Buckeyes. But yeah, it obviously sucks for Njigba that he's going to be out at least to start the season. Thankfully, like you mentioned, Isaiah, that he got it now, not like during the season. So, I think I saw that their first game, just as Isaiah was talking about, and they have the Rams. I don't think specifically that the Rams defense is going to be as what it once was. I mean, this is not the Rams Super Bowl defense like against the Patriots talking here, but they have DK, they have Lockett, Geno Smith, obviously our quarterback, he's going to, come back for another year. And then they have, I think, Rashad Penny at running back. I'm not specifically sure about that. They have Kenneth Walker. I know they have Walker at running back. I'm trying to remember but Walker was really good last year too. So, I mean, nothing to take away from Njigba, but I think they should be okay without him at least to kind of start the season. But he's going to be a great piece when he comes back. I mean, he is a very good guy yards after the catch. I mean, I saw a lot of him, of course, play on in college football on TV, and he's just absolutely electric. I mean, he is a burner. I wanted the Patriots to draft him, but obviously that didn't happen. So, it just sucks for him. Hopefully he's going to be all right, and obviously he can ball out when he comes back during the season.
So looking at the Seahawks depth chart, I had to look myself, Ben. The running backs, you have Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet. He was from UCLA. I got to watch him a lot here on the West Coast, the rookie. And then DJ Dallas is a third stringer. So those are three pretty good ones there. So they have a lot of things going for them. I feel like it's all on Geno Smith. So let's
James, before we move off the Seahawks topic, this is not related to Njigba, but watch out, if you're a Seahawks fan, watch out for Jake Bobo, the tight end, because I watched him during that Seahawks-Vikings game, and that guy was making some acrobatic catches in that game, laying out, making one-handed grabs. I mean, he's a young tight end, and he's just going to continue to get better and better and better. And I think that, he's a guy that I think could jump on a lot of people's radars this year and really surprise a lot of people because the Seahawks, their offense is like a run-heavy offense. They do throw to the receivers, but when you have all your attention on the running game and the receivers, the tight end is going to be leaking out and be wide open. So I could see Jake Bobo having a monster year for Seattle.
We'd like to thank Seahawks expert Isaiah Leong for that Seahawks report. Let's get to the last NFL segment. Cowboys.
Hey, you bought a shirt from them.
Oh boy! Oh, you call yourself a 49er fan, don't you? I wasn't gonna.
Oh, you're a great 49er fan. I'm joking.
Savage. So Cowboys owner Jerry Jones announced that Hall of Fame pass rusher DeMarcus Ware will join the Cowboys Hall of Fame this season. It was kind of a shock when you think about it. He was important in those years, no doubt about it. From 2005 to 2013, he was a Dallas Cowboy. All but his last year with the Cowboys, he started all the games. He was really good defensive player. He was selected to the Pro Bowl so many years in his 9-year career with the Cowboys. He also had 3 years with the Denver Broncos, winning a Super Bowl, by the way, in 2015. So, with all that being said, I don't know. For me, it seems like a lot of players are going into Ring of Honors, and it's a little too soon, or it's maybe not as well deserved. When you think of DeMarcus Ware at that time, okay, he was one of the best pass rushers. He wasn't the best, but I think it's a great move by Jerry Jones to put him in that Ring of Honor. When you think about it, Cowboys have had so many great players. Too many names have worn just one number for them to retire a number. When you think about Michael Irvin, Drew Pearson, all had 88, and they still give that out, to the best receiver. I think all they've done was not have 12 or 8 retired for their quarterbacks, basically. But I'll start with Ben on this. So what do you think of Jerry Jones putting DeMarcus Ware in the Dallas Cowboy Ring of Honor?
Yeah, I obviously didn't really see much of this report, but I mean, I think that he was one of the best defensive players that I think the modern day football really saw. I mean, he, put up massive sacks year in, year out. He was, of course, a pest when the Patriots played against him when he was in Denver. So he just presents a massive disruption for the offensive line. And, yeah, I mean, obviously, your team specifically, they obviously can make decisions specifically if, you can get into, the Ring of Honor. For instance, like a guy like Rondé Barber, he got into the Ring of Honor with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, my Patriots, there's a ton of guys in the Patriots Hall of Fame. Vince Wilfork, for example. Obviously Brady will get in soon. But, yeah, I mean, I think it's more of fan voting possibly for more of like the, team Ring of Honor or something like that. Obviously, if it kind of branches out to more of the NFL and the league, probably more of the popularity worldwide. But yeah, I mean, he's one of the best defensive players that our league has seen. So yeah, he should definitely get honored to be for sure in that Ring of Honor.
Isaiah, same question. What do you think of Jerry Jones putting in DeMarcus Ware, putting him in the Ring of Honor this season for the Cowboys?
James, I actually disagree with your take. I think it's a very deserving honor for DeMarcus Ware because when you think about the early 2000 Cowboys, right? You think about Tony Romo, you think about Des Bryant, you think about DeMarcus Ware. You know, those three guys were part of like the big three with the Cowboys, and he had 138 career sacks. He won Defensive Player of the Year 3 times. All 3 were with Dallas. He was just a game wrecker and a big force for the Dallas Cowboys. And their defense wasn't really necessarily great when he was there, but he was the guy that was like the anchor of that defense, right? He was like the Draymond Green of that defense where wherever he went, the defense went with him. So I do think that it's a deserving honor for him. It's congratulations to him on getting into it. My biggest question, though, is why hasn't Jimmy Johnson been inducted into the Cowboys Ring of Honor? Like, why does DeMarcus Ware, although I think it's a well-deserving honor for DeMarcus Ware, why is DeMarcus Ware going in before Tony Romo?
I have that answer.
Jimmy Johnson. Like, it makes no sense. Jimmy Johnson won you 3 Super Bowls. He orchestrated that dynasty of the Cowboys in the 90s. Like, he should have been in like a long time ago. And I know Jerry Jones said he was going to get in like a couple years ago, but it still hasn't happened. And I think it absolutely deserves to happen because when you think about the Cowboys, you think about Jimmy Johnson, Troy Aikman, Tony Romo, Des Bryant, some way. It's like when you talk about the Patriots or the Niners, right? You think about those teams: Belichick, Brady, Niners, Joe Montana, Bill Walsh. It's like what the Cowboys are doing is like the Patriots saying, whatever, we'll put Brady in, we're not going to put Belichick in. Or the Niners saying, we'll put Joe Montana in, we're not going to put Bill Walsh in. Like, it makes no sense. Like, the Chiefs won you 3 Super Bowls. I think they, three-peated too, right?
92, 93, and then 95.
Yeah. So, I think that, it's a great honor for DeMarcus Ware, but Jimmy Johnson has got to be in the Cowboys Hall of Fame. Like, it's a damn shame that he's not.
I can tell you why, though. And I think, was it Bleacher Report had a YouTube video called Beef, and it was between Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones. And they just had words back and forth with one another. And then just watch that video, Isaiah, and you'll wonder why Jimmy hasn't gone in the Ring of Honor. Him and Jerry have beef starting from the night before Super Bowl in 94. And it just went on from there. Even though they were successful, they came out like the 70s Yankees, where they didn't like each other, but they had to work together and they won. And there's other examples like that. Shaq and Kobe for a period of time. No matter how much they try to hide it, it still was out there. So they had beef with one another. That's why he's not up there yet. And the words still continue after all these years. There's some peaceful time, but then somebody says something and then something happens where they get offended and they're done with it. Okay, so I had Cowboy fans not like DeMarcus Ware because he ended up winning a Super Bowl with Denver. So from that perspective, I was thinking about the fans that I know who are Cowboy fans that would say, I don't think he should be in yet, like right away. But that's just all of the NFL news. I know we'll have more on the next shows coming up. It's going to be fun. Let's turn our attention to MLB talk and our team reports. I know we led off with the breaking news of Shohei Ohtani. It was a day today in the Angels organization. So I guess I'll start with mine real quick since we had the breaking news. And, yeah, it's been a day. It's been a day. It's been a losing day, a pair of losses. Last weekend we had a doubleheader because of the tropical storm that came in and blew through and left water everywhere for sure. Monday there wasn't a game. Tuesday there was against Cincinnati. And then today there was a doubleheader with the Reds, and they lost all the games basically. So they got swept by Cincinnati, and that wasn't even the worst of news. Shohei Ohtani, if you heard of us at the top of the show here, UCL tear, he won't pitch again in 2023, and there's doubts about next season, his free agency, the pending contract of $500+ million. You can throw that all aside, basically. Ohtani did hit a home run in the first game, in the first inning of his start, in which he left early, of course. He claimed the home run lead, but then he left the game. He played the second game, only hitting, and he was 1 for 5, like Ben mentioned. The Angels lost 9-4 on the day game, and then the night shift, they lost 7-3. On Tuesday, they lost 4-3, so they got swept by Cincinnati. Before that, the Rays came into town. They played Friday, and then the onrushing tropical storm made the Angels play a doubleheader in which they split on Saturday with Tampa Bay. So some really great opponents coming in, and they certainly showed who was boss. The Angels now at 61-67. They are now, 12 games out of first place. Texas, 1 game ahead of Houston, 1.5 behind Seattle. And I won't say what Oakland is, but yeah. The Angels now 10.5 behind in the wild card, tied with Cleveland. Yay. Good thing is that the Yankees are 9.5 behind, so that's nice to see. They actually won tonight somehow. It was Aaron Judge hitting 3 home runs. Anyway, the Angels with that news, and then with Mike Trout, he came back on Tuesday because Monday, I think they wanted everybody to get situated back with, getting back to normal after the tropical storm came through. So the Angels postponed their game on Monday. The Padres played their game. So I don't know. I don't get it. But Mike Trout came back. It seemed like he didn't even get a hit these games. He played Tuesday and then played the first game of the doubleheader, but not the second. I think he experienced some soreness in that ham bone area, and he's been shut down for the rest of the season. Ohtani, we'll see if he comes back this year just to hit. The pitching has not been pretty good. Has not been anything of good lately, honestly. The bullpen has been awful. Carlos Estevez, our all-star closer, has been awful as of late. You can rely on him, and then he's been really bad. Mickey Moniak, your boy up there, he's been really struggling, taking strikes, swinging and missing. Whatever happened before 3 weeks ago, it's gone now. And he's really struggled. And he's kind of sit on the bench lately. And he's thrown out, by the way, last night, trying to steal in the 9th inning, being down 2 or down 1, I believe. So, I'm sorry, Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday he was thrown out. So there's been a lot going wrong. I mean, at the top of the lineup, at the bottom, Trout coming back, it felt like batting practice for him. And by the way, he didn't even take any live batting practice or live action hitting before he came back. He was pretty much just rushed into this as if it was just batting practice. And so I think the training staff, along with the Ohtani injury, just saying, hey, go out there and start. If you feel something, tell us. Instead of shutting him down today, starting the first game of that doubleheader today. So 2 gaffes by the training staff of the Angels training staff. And this is a newer training staff, by the way. They started, I believe, last year. And the same problems are happening like years past with the Rendon injury. By the way, he's on the 60-day DL. He's out for the season. Who saw that coming, right? So there is a lot of issues with the Angels. Yeah, like I said, 61-67, so many games out of the wild card, so many games out of first place. Things are not well right now. let's kick it now to kicking it with Ben Cruz, about your Boston Red Sox. I heard they got a win today.
Guys, I would like you guys to take a look at this video before we go. If you didn't guys get to hear that, that was the Dumb and Dumber saying, so you're telling me there's a chance. And yes, the Red Sox specifically had a massive win tonight. They swept against the New York Yankees, obviously in their place, pretty much, putting that team out to dry, for the rest of the season. Thankfully, now you have Brian Cashman saying the season disaster. Oh, it's music to my ears. Thankfully. But now we have to go to play in our juggernaut part of the stretch where we have 4 in Houston, 3 at home against the Dodgers, low row. We're going to have some fun. And then the Houston again next week at Fenway. So this is kind of where we're getting tested really for pretty much the kind of the crucial part of our season. The first 2 games in Houston were brutal. The first game on Monday, they lost. I have to go back and check. It was a lot to a little, let's just say that. 9-4, yeah. So the Red Sox actually had a 3-0 lead. Duvall had a 3-run home run. Then the Houston came back. Paxton wasn't great on Monday. And then, the bullpen came in afterward. Pulpin wasn't great. And one of the biggest stretches that Rafael Devers has really struggled with as of late is his defense. He's actually the highest, I believe, in defensive errors for a third baseman this season, and for a guy that I love in Rafi, just completely just crazy to see this happen, unacceptable. And he's putting it really to himself too for that to happen. So they lost the first game by the final of 9-4. And then yesterday, they lost 7-3. Tanner Houck came back from his injury. He actually pitched pretty good. He did give up a home run at the first to Tucker, and then the Astros got another run. And then obviously the Red Sox, what the Red Sox do best is they score late when it doesn't matter. So they lost by the final of 7-3. So now you're down 2-0 in the series. Mariners felt like they just never stopped winning, but actually today they lost for a change. And so I'm just like, well, we have to take advantage of that. And Toronto also lost today too. So I'm just like, well, Seattle's in play tomorrow. I believe Toronto plays tomorrow against the Orioles. Yes, they do tomorrow night. So I'll definitely be watching that. So the Red Sox had a massive win today. They were down early 3-0. I'm like, oh boy, here we go again. They've been down the last 3 games against Houston and Houston. It just feels like they always seem to play us really, really tough, which obviously they're one of the best teams in baseball. But then the Red Sox got 2 runs to make it 3-2. They made it 4-4 until the top of the 10th. Adam Duvall came up to play. Now, Adam Duvall had 2 home runs last 2 nights. And actually in the same at bat in the top of the 10th, he had a foul ball off of his shin. And obviously they were kind of wanting specifically to stay in the game. Next pitch, he hits it out of the ballpark. And that gives the Red Sox a 7-4 lead. Then it got really dicey in the bottom of the 10th, where Winkowski had to come in. Kenley Jansen, unfortunately, got injured. He had to leave the game in the bottom of the 9th with right hamstring tightness. So we'll see specifically how that is. Hopefully he's okay because he's been massive in the bullpen this year for us. McCormick started that inning with the single. Then Diaz got a single to make it a 7-5 game. It was 7-4 at the time. He got a Brady strikeout. Then he got Pena singled. So his bases loaded with 1 out. It got really, really intense. Then he got a strikeout, and then he got a ground out, and the Sox were able to hold on for a 7-5 victory. Now they gain up another game. They are now 4 games back. They're 3 games back of Toronto, who is right now sitting outside looking of the 3rd place wild card. And now the Red Sox really, pretty much all of these are must wins at this point in time. But if they can split after kind of the start of this series in Houston, the way it went, it's massive. It's an absolute massive to take out of. Then you can go back home. Where you played pretty well, at least in the past, the second half of the season. You play against the Dodgers and you got the Astros to finish off the month of August. So, yeah, you're telling me there's a chance. There definitely is a slim chance of hope. But they obviously have to play really good, clean baseball. A lot of the games the last couple of nights where they've lost, they've played typical Red Sox losing baseball where they have a lot of errors, leave a lot of guys left on base. So for that to pretty much change and play clean, they got to do it the rest of the way, and there's potential hope for something.
All right, so Isaiah, where to start? Let's start with the Philadelphia Phillies. They've had an interesting week. They were playing the Giants. They ended the 3-game series, dropping the third but taking the first 2. The second game, they had a walk-off, I believe. Trey Turner brought home Bryce Harper. In, I think, Monday's game, Bryce Harper had a inside-the-park home run. Is that right? That's what happened. So it's been an eventful week as the Phillies try to keep their wild card spot. It looks like they're going to. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But what's your report on the Philadelphia Phillies? And then we'll get to Philadelphia's old team, the A's.
Well, the Phillies are lucky that they didn't lose 2 out of 3 to the Giants because they were close to losing 2 out of 3. But this was honestly like the most wild and wackiest series of the season for the Phillies against the Giants. Like, especially the last 2 games where the Phillies honestly should have lost the second game against the Giants, but luckily Trey Turner hit a line drive right. It was like a little bit to the right of Camilo Doval, the Giants all-star closer. And if he doesn't just touch it a little bit with his glove, that goes right to the second baseman, and the second baseman throws to first, and that's game over. The Giants win. But luckily, he was able to touch it a little bit and change the direction a little bit of the ball. And instead of it going right to the second baseman, it veered off to the left and went into right field for a base hit. So the Phillies got really lucky there. Turner's hit ended up bringing in 2 runners. So the Phillies not only tied the game, but they won the game on the Trey Turner base hit. It was definitely like a super lucky, fluky hit from Trey Turner. But I'll take it. I'll take it for sure. And then in today's game, the Phillies could have won it. Like, they were down 5-2 for majority of the game. Then Bryce Harper hits a game-tying 3-run homer with nobody out in the 9th. It was kind of like reminiscent of what Bryce Harper did to the Angels last year when he hit that grand slam. Sorry about that, James. But I had to bring that up. But yeah, like, it reminded me of that. And the ballpark was just electric. It was buzzing. And then in the 10th inning, Craig Kimbrell gave up 3 runs. So it was 8-5. And then in the bottom of the 10th, Edmundo Sosa hit a double, and that brought in the runner from second. So it was 8-6. And then, kudos to the Giants. I mean, they made some just clutch catches. One of their Bryson Stott hits a line drive to left, and one of their outfielders, Wade Meckler, the young rookie, makes a diving catch. And that ball gets by him, and it's probably going to the wall, and the Phillies score another run. But he made that catch. And then Austin Slater made an unbelievable game-saving catch to give the Giants the win, where I forgot who it was that hit it. It was Alec Boehm that hit it. Alec Boehm hits a line shot to right field, and Slater goes back to the wall and makes an acrobatic catch at the fence to snag it. And if that hits the fence, that's a double. And Bowman's at second base with 1 out in the 10th inning, and it's an 8-7 ball game. But man, like, it was a crazy game. It sucks the Phillies lost, but what a game that was. And the Phillies, at least they won the series, which was great. And now you look at who they play next. They play the Cardinals, who have struggled a lot this season. 3 games at Citizens Bank Park, and then the Angels come in for another 3 games, and with Shohei and Trout being out, with Shohei and Trout being after the year, we could potentially see them do to the Angels what they did last year, and that is sweep them at Citizens Bank Park. But yeah, I mean, great series by the Phillies. Taijuan Walker looked great in the game against the Giants. The offense is clicking. Trey Turner is looking so much better after the Phillies fans gave him a standing ovation. It looks like that ovation just revived his entire career, kind of like how it did to Alec Boehm last year when he was getting booed and he was having a bad start to the season, and then he said, "I effing hate this place," and then the next day Phillies gave him an ovation, and then he turned it around. But yeah, like it's great to get the win over the Giants, and now I believe the Phillies are, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they're like 5 games ahead of the Giants for the first wild card spot, and the Giants aren't even in the wild card. So a great series for the Phillies in general.
Looking at it, I'm gonna say 3 games. It looks like they are ahead of the 3.5 ahead of the Giants there. Let's get to your Oakland Athletics. They are 36-91, last place in the AL West, 36.5 out, and then just for fun, 35 games out of the wild card. So, what's the feeling with the A's? Their fans there. I heard they had about 5,000 fans, and I don't think that many showed up against the Royals, I believe, today at the Coliseum.
You guys want to know exactly how empty it was at the Coliseum? Here's a picture I took during the game. This was, I believe, when Zach Geloff hit a home run in the 3rd inning. This was the Coliseum right here. It was my first game back at the Coliseum in a while to work an A's game, and this was the crowd. I mean, they had a concert next door at the Oakland Arena, the former Oracle Arena, but
look at that.
There was more people that showed. There was like 3 times more people that showed up for that than for this game. I mean, for this game, James, they said it was 3,000. Trust me, there was 1,500 fans that showed up for this game. I was there, and I can tell you that there was not 3,000. There was not even 2,000. It was more like 1,500 fans that showed up for this game. But you know, James, my overall thoughts, believe it or not, on this week for the Oakland Athletics, you know, I always come in here cranky and upset and the A's suck and all of that stuff. My overall thoughts on this week for the A's is, what a week it was for the Athletics. I think the Athletics had a better week than like 10 of the teams in baseball. I mean, they actually won a series. Yes, it was against Kansas City, and yes, Kansas City sucks, but the A's actually won a series. And let me just tell you this, James. Not only did they win a series, but the young kids are out here and they're balling out. You know, the young kids, which we call them New Oakland, with guys like, you know, Zach Geloff, who has provided an absolute spark to the Oakland A's. I mean, this is probably a flaming hot take right here, but Zach Geloff reminds me a lot of a young Bryce Harper. I mean, this kid is going to be a superstar in this league. I mean, I did a video, I think, if we could play that video, that'd be great. Yeah, right there. That is the truth. Zach Geloff hitting a monster home run against the Royals in that game. He's got 9 home runs. He's got 9 home runs, and he also leads all rookies in doubles, and he's got a .308 batting average. And guess what? He hasn't even played his 40th game in the big leagues. I mean, this kid is just tearing it up right now. It's absolutely amazing to see. The Oakland A's have found their next franchise player. Matt Chapman and Matt Olson passed the baton to Zach Geloff. This kid is the real deal, and it's so fun to see him play. You know, I don't care if we lose out the rest of the season. Just give me Zach Geloff, Nick Allen, Lawrence Butler, and the kids of New Oakland balling out, and that'd be the best thing I could ever see. So it was great for the A's. Geloff did his thing. Brent Rooker hit a massive walk-off home run. I mean, I was calling it. I told one of my coworkers, like when the A's were up 4-2 going into the top of the 8th inning, I said, and I think James probably has this feeling sometimes when watching Angel games when the Angels have the lead. It's like, oh, crap. How are we going to blow it? We're going to blow it. We're going to blow it somehow. The bullpen is going to blow it. That's exactly how I feel when watching the A's game is the bullpen's going to blow it. I don't know how, but they're going to blow it. And sure enough, they blew it. But then I was telling one of my coworkers, Rooker's going to hit a home run. Just trust me. Rooker or Nick Allen is going to hit a home run to give the A's the win. And sure enough, Rooker hit a home run to give the A's the win. But it was a great series. Rooker did his thing. Jordan Diaz hit a couple of home runs. Zach Geloff, the truth as we're calling him, he hit a couple of home runs and a couple of doubles. Lawrence Butler had a couple of hits. Nick Allen had a couple of hits in the series. New Oakland is thriving, James, and I think that the A's, believe it or not, we could see the A's being wild card contenders as soon as next season with New Oakland just propelling this team moving forward.
We'll see if that happens. If the team moves to Las Vegas, who knows what will happen. Do we have any comments, Isaiah? Any shout-outs, anything? Okay, good. Let's get to our...
We do. We have one comment. Edward Lee commented this earlier saying Ohtani was injured mostly. I think he's talking about the Ohtani injury. It's a really devastating injury. And then we have our guy, one of our loyal viewers watching this program, Chardot. He says, hey, gentlemen. And he also says, how are you guys doing? I'm doing great. I've had a fabulous day. But my co-host right there, his day probably like this right now.
Yeah. Speaking of bad days, the Chicago White Sox, they made some massive moves yesterday as they cleaned house and fired longtime executive vice president of baseball operations, Kenny Williams, and GM Rick Hahn. Remember, Kenny Williams was the GM and architect of the World Series champion White Sox back in 2005. And they made the playoffs, I think, in 2008 as well, under Kenny Williams being the GM. And they've also hired Tony La Russa as a consultant to come help him with the search for a new leader in the front office. A reminder, Tony La Russa, who is now white-haired or gray-haired now, just to let everyone know that. I seen some pictures of him recently at a Cardinal game. I'm like, oh, okay, he let that go since he's not in the spotlight anymore. But this was a guy whom had to be told what to do from the fans sitting behind him or next to him by the dugout to pinch run for a runner late in the game. And we saw him sleeping in a dugout, and you're going to bring him in, and he'll sleep in the meetings for the front office leader. Now, I do have some inside information, Isaiah, on the Chicago White Sox. I've mostly been watching Foul Territory. It's AJ Pierzynski, among others. Eric Kratz, I believe, is another correspondent on their channel on YouTube. And they've been giving some good words, good advice for the White Sox. I would love Ozzie Guillen to come back and whip everybody into shape, but that's not going to happen. I don't think he's ever going to be a manager again. But Chris Getz, remember he was an infielder a couple of decades ago. He is the leading candidate to be the next White Sox GM. By the way, the team, the reason all this came up, they lost the Crosstown they split the Crosstown series last week. They lost 2 of 3, including a 14-1 blowout Friday in Colorado. And then they lost 2 out of 3 to Seattle. That might have been the Colorado series might have been the final straw for Jerry Reinsdorf, who is old as dirt now. He might be looking to sell the team, by the way. There's a lot factoring into the White Sox right now, and they might be rumored to moving to Nashville, Tennessee. It actually could happen. The stadium they're in, it's over 30 years old. It's a really bad stadium. The area is really awful about that. People getting scammed going into parking. It's just a bad situation on and off the field and in the front office for the White Sox. Plus the locker room issues. Remember with Tim Anderson and Grandal, Tim Anderson gets knocked out. Griff Lowell has really lost the team, it seems like, in his first year of managing. You might see him get fired. You really don't know. Anyway, Isaiah, what do you think about all of this going on with the White Sox? I mean, everything that I mentioned. What do you think about the White Sox, and what do they do going forward? Like, how do they manage the team? If they get sold, who gets the team? Are they going to move to Nashville? Is Chris Getz going to be the GM? What's going on with the White Sox, Isaiah?
First of all, let me just say this. For all of my fellow White Sox fans out there that are a friend of mine, hallelujah, man. God bless you, because you deserve this day. White Sox fans have been wanting Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn fired for the last 4 to 5 years, and it's about damn time that they got fired. They should have gotten fired years ago, man. They needed new leadership, obviously, in their front office for a long, long time. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the White Sox don't even really use analytics. They use the old school way of doing things, so they needed to modernize their front office. So it's about time that they do it. But here's the thing, James. The White Sox are like the A's. They take one gigantic step forward, they take 2 gigantic steps back. You fire the front office, okay? Fire. You clean house, everybody in the front office is gone. But then you bring back La Russa to be your consultant. It just doesn't make any sense. What are you even doing? And now, there's a rumor out there, I don't know how true this is, but I think Bob Nightingale also reported something like this, that the White Sox could promote Chris Getz to being the GM, but he would work under La Russa, who would be president of baseball ops. If that happens, I mean, guaranteed great field, sell all your fans or give all your fans a bottle of liquor every single day. Every single day they come to the games, give them a free bottle of liquor. I mean, that's how pathetic that would be. The White Sox keep just doing the same old stuff. What's the new thing? La Russa's going to pull a Greg Popovich and be the guy running the front office and being the manager again? It just doesn't make any sense. And to Ben's point, the White Sox front office makes the Yankees front office look like an embarrassment. Yes, I agree with you completely, Ben. Complete embarrassment. La Russa shouldn't have anything to do with the White Sox. It's just Jerry Reinsdorf wanting to hire his friend again. I think, James, sadly, the likelihood is that La Russa will be the head of the front office because Chris Getz working under him as the day-to-day guy. I just think Reinsdorf is so attached to La Russa where he just can't take that off, and he's just going to, in any way, shape, or form, he's going to have La Russa be in charge of something in the White Sox organization. So that's why I think that if you have to ask me right now, Tony La Russa will be the next leader of the baseball ops for the Chicago White Sox. He probably won't be doing day-by-day stuff, but he's the guy who's going to have final say, and I think that would be an absolute disgrace of a move for the White Sox. If I'm the White Sox right now, you know what I'm doing? I'm calling up 3 gentlemen. I'm calling up John Daniels, the guy that was fired by the Texas Rangers. I think he deserves another shot for sure. I think the Rangers firing him was one of the worst moves in not only Rangers history, but I think worst moves in Texas sports history, second to Jerry Jones firing Jimmy Johnson. I think that John Daniels definitely deserves another shot. Brian Sabian, the former Giants president of baseball ops, I think he would be a good fit. James, here's an outside the box move.
Oh, boy.
Here's an outside the box move. Joe Girardi.
No.
If I'm the White Sox, I would call him to see if he has any interest running baseball ops, because he is a great baseball mind. He's broadcasting for the other team in Chicago, the Cubs, and he's offering great insight I think Girardi would be a great fit for the White Sox in the baseball ops department if he wanted to go that route. But I think for the White Sox, you're going to look at old school candidates because Jerry Reinsdorf sadly is old school, and I think that. God bless the White Sox fans if it's really Lou Russo running the president of baseball ops. I mean, I like that. That'd just be insane. But those are the three candidates. Yeah, but those are the three candidates I would call if you're looking at old school candidates. Heck, why not give Jeff Lunau, the former Astros president, a call to see if he's interested?
The thing is, and you mentioned Jerry Reinsdorf, Tony La Russa, they don't do things a new way. It was always the thing with Hawk Harrison, the announcer. He hated analytics. He'd go with what the manager and his gut, and then just based on numbers, but not too much analytical stuff. And the Yankees have gone away with that ever since 2019, it seems like, or 18-19. I've heard so many stories lately about analytics versus just doing everything by your gut feeling and using numbers just a little bit. But maybe it's time Jerry, it doesn't sound like it though, but maybe it's time he sells the team, or there's a new point of emphasis that is around analytics, and you're thinking like everyone else now. Well, not the Angels though, but you're thinking of, because the Angels have this problem too. There's no sense of direction, or they try to change it, but they don't have the right players or the right philosophy. Oh, that's such a mess. And just I don't know if they're gonna. I don't think they'll ever move, but the way all this news came down the last couple of days is just crazy. I mean, the Rays had a bad week last week. Now it's the White Sox turn to have a bad week this week. The Angels had a bad day today. Who knows what's going to happen the next, couple of days. Speaking of a bad spell, our next segment, the Texas Rangers. They got swept by the Arizona Diamondbacks in a 2-game series this past week and have now lost 6 straight games. And they've seen their once mighty 5-game lead over the Astros trimmed all the way down to a game and a half. Or it's a half game now. Oh, no, it's a game and a half now to Houston. Is it time to worry about the Rangers, Isaiah? Or will they bounce back, rely on their hitting? They'll get better starting pitching? Or are they just screwed and they might eventually fall out of the wild card with hot hitting Seattle also there, who has been amazing all this, last 2 or 3 weeks. Ever since they played the Angels, it seems like Seattle, they've just been amazing. The Angels are that get-right team, and Seattle has done that. So is it time to worry about the Rangers with all this going on?
James, the reason why I have a gloomy look on my face right now, and I hope all the Ranger fans and the people of Texas do not come at me, but I feel like I'm the prime responsibility of why the Rangers have struggled.
That's right.
Because I have jinxed the Texas Rangers again. And, I think I made a post on social media a couple weeks ago saying, I would like to announce to the world that, ladies and gentlemen, I am a Texas Rangers fan. And all of a sudden, the Rangers just went from going like up and up and up to going boop right down the drain. And, I know my guy Calvin McClure will probably get at me for, what I have done to the Texas Rangers and the marvelous people of Texas. But it is time to worry about the Rangers because right now you look at their lineup, nobody besides Corey Seager is hitting. And you look at their hot lineup, their amazing offense. The reason why their offense was so great for a lot part of the season was because everybody was chipping it, everybody was hitting. But you look at the last 6 games, they have literally only scored a average of 3 runs a game or 2 runs a game. And that's not going to cut it in baseball for you to win. You can't just score 2 runs a game and expect to win. That's just not how it works. Plus their bullpen is also blowing games left and right. I know the game 1 against the Brewers, they had a 4-2 lead. The bullpen comes in, Spores, he comes in, he gives up like 4 runs. Then Chapman comes in, he gives up a couple of more runs, and that was all she wrote. And then against the Brewers on Saturday, they were down 2-1. It was a pretty manageable lead, and they give up, I believe they gave up like 4 runs in the 7th and 8th inning, with Will Smith giving up a lot of those runs. And then Sunday was kind of the same thing against the D-backs. The Rangers had a 3-run lead going into the bottom of the 10th inning after scoring 2 runs in the 10th inning, top of the 10th. And Will Smith comes in and blows it again. Like, this is the problem with the Rangers. The offense is not hitting. Nobody besides Seager is hitting now. Simeon, Garcia, Jankowski, they're all struggling. Jonah Heim is not the same ever since his injury. Josh Young, he's probably going to be done for the year or until at least October. That's a big blow. And then the starting pitching is struggling. Max Scherzer walked 6 batters in 3 1/3 innings the last time he pitched on Sunday. And then Will Smith, we're seeing what we've always seen. Will Smith is not a closer. You cannot have him be your primary closer in the playoffs. You need a guy that can shut it down. 1, 2, 3, boom, go back into the clubhouse, game over. But Will Smith is like Santiago Casilla with the Giants. He plays with you. He gives you heart attacks every time he pitches. There's guys on base every time he pitches, and he gets lucky, and he's like a bend, don't break closer. Well, guess what? He's going to break when the big moments matter, and you can't have him as your closer. The Rangers just have a plethora of problems right now, and it is time to worry because the Rangers have led the AL West all season long. I feel like they need that AL West. You need that home field advantage in the playoffs, because I would rather play Houston at Globe Life Field for majority of that series than at Minute Maid, where the Astros have a massive home field advantage come playoff time. So it is time to worry. I think the Rangers will still make the playoffs, but I'm talking about if you want to get deep into the playoffs, you got to get that home field advantage.
Yeah, it's worry time definitely in Arlington. Speaking of worrying time, the Yankees and Brian Cashman, their GM, in the press conference on Wednesday night called the Yankees season a disaster. And when asked about manager Aaron Boone's future, I should say, Cashman said smartly, "We are all being evaluated, not just Aaron Boone." Yeah, I feel like that's a smart thing to say. It feels like Hal Steinbrenner's kind of let the Yankees down in this way. Hasn't been able to. He's given the money and the okay to make these deals happen, but you see for Stanton, that's gone awry. Donaldson's kind of been bad. You just paid Judge a lot of, and they did win today, but they lost a couple of games to Washington. They had a horrible losing streak. And the Yankees, again, 9.5 out of that wild card. You can forget about last place in their division. I feel like both are getting fired at the end of the year. I feel like the Yankees, in order to be whom they were before, they need a major shakeup. And they were always known for shaking up things a bit. And it got really bad with Billy Martin being the manager of the Yankees 5 separate times with George Steinbrenner. It won't be like that. But they need something different. And they also kind of got away from analytics. They don't do the hit and run. They have a revolving door of left fielders coming in and out, honestly. They really need a Brett Gardner type of center fielder. And they were just relying on Judge, who had a horrible injury this year. And, he's been off and on. But what do you think about, Cashman's comments saying we're all being evaluated, just Aaron Boone? And then, Isaiah, do you think both will be fired after the season?
I think Brian Cashman's comments indicate that Aaron Boone is a goner after the season, regardless of what happens the rest of the way. If the Yankees win the World Series, Boone will stay. If they make it to the AL Championship or ALCS, Probably. But let's face it, they're not going to do anything. You look at where they are right now. They just lost, I believe, 2 out of 3 to the Washington Nationals. They're 61-65. They had to win today, or else I thought Boone was going to get fired if they got swept by the Nats. Because if you get swept by Washington after you got swept by the Red Sox and you got swept by another team, like you got to go. But I think that Cashman's comments make it seem that Boone is going to be gone at the end of the year. And I think that, Cashman honestly should be gone too, because it's like the thing with the White Sox, with the front office having been there a long time, doing the things that they've done for a long time, the way that they've done it for a long time, they need new ideas. Like, they need fresh ideas, and it's about time that they get some fresh ideas in there. I don't know why Hal Steinbrenner doesn't want to make that move. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I agree with you. I think that they need a massive shakeup, and they need a clean house, just like the White Sox did, this past week. The Yankees have to do that, and I think with the Yankees, they're a mess right now. Like, Judge is there, Cole is going to be there, but it's like the rest of the lineup either doesn't fit, they always get hurt, or they just are struggling massively. And you look at their farm system, it just doesn't look like anything that is very good. Volpe is like their best that has come out of the farm system as of late. I know Oswaldo Cabrera was all right when he came up, but there's just nothing exciting about the Yankees. They're so boring outside of Judge, and sadly for the Yankees, I just feel like they're done, and they've had so many issues. They remind me, James, remember the year that Frank Vogel got fired by the Lakers? Like, that Lakers team was a mess. There was so many things going wrong, injuries, bad chemistry, all that stuff. I feel like this Yankees team reminds me of the 2022 Los Angeles Lakers. I think they need a massive shakeup, roster-wise, and also coaching-wise, and also front office as well. And I think that would shift the tide and help turn the Yankees organization around.
It's funny you mentioned boring and with the New York Yankees. Did you hear their radio announcer get caught saying on air coming back from commercial, "This is so boring"? And it was a Hall of Famer announcer, Susan Wolderson. I forget her name, but she works with John Sterling with the Yankees on the radio side. And before Sterling was able to come back from commercial and say something, she got caught saying, "This is so boring," in that Nationals loss. I think it was yesterday. So, yeah, things are not looking good for the New York Yankees. The Milwaukee Brewers, they've had some issues with their stadium. I don't know if they'll stick around or not or move, but reportedly they made a strong push for Mets superstar Pete Alonso at the trade deadline. Now, it's interesting to note, Pete Alonso, I believe, will be a free agent at the end of this year, and it would have been a rental deal. But for the Brewers to make a move like that, it would be like a CC Sabathia move back in 2008. It would have that type of velocity with that, let's just say. So what did you think when you sent me this, Isaiah, this news story that came out? If the Brewers did get Pete Alonso, where would they be? And do you think the Brewers or the Mets regret not making this trade?
Well, here's my first reaction to this, James. Pete Alonso, I could see a Pete Alonso trade this offseason, because if you were that close to potentially moving Pete Alonso at the trade deadline, then I think the Mets are definitely serious about potentially moving on from Pete Alonso and moving on to the next core of Mets that will help try to lead them to another World Series appearance and also World Series title. I think that the Mets, they wouldn't get that close to moving Alonso if they didn't want to move him. So I think it shows a willingness for the Mets to move Alonso, which is huge, because now teams know, okay, the Mets are willing to move Pete Alonso for the right offer. It's going to take a lot, but teams like I could see a lot of teams this offseason just being like, hey, let's try to trade for Pete Alonso this offseason. So I think it's a big news for sure. I think that for the Brewers, had they got him in, the Brewers honestly would have been one of the best teams in the NL because you would have had Alonso, you would have had Yelich, you would have had, a guy there, Bryce Turang, who has, really stood out as a young player. Plus, the starting pitching has been really good for the Brewers. It would have vaulted the Brewers to not only as NL Central favorites for this year and next year, but it would have vaulted them to being a team that I think would contend for the National League pennant with the Dodgers had they got him. And, dude, imagine a Yelich-Alonso duel in the lineup. Yelich batting third, Alonso batting fourth. Look at how much power that lineup would have, James.
Yelich has kind of been mundane for a couple years now. He hasn't been the same.
No, he hasn't been the same, but he's still a big threat in the Brewers lineup. But, I think the Brewers, it would have taken a lot, obviously, but I think they should have made that trade because they would have definitely vaulted them to NL contenders for sure. But the Mark Canha trade is definitely paying off for them. Canha's balling out for the Brewers right now, although he didn't have any hits today, but he has played very well for them. For the Brewers, I think this is like their last major run because their manager, Craig Counsell, is a free agent at the end of the season, believe it or not. Mark Canha, I believe, he's got an option on his deal for next season. Corbin Burns, after this year, he's got one more year left. Like, I think for this core of Brewers, I think that this is like the last ride for the Milwaukee Brewers, and they definitely have to make a big push into the postseason for, the chances of everybody coming back to be elevated to a higher level. But in terms of the Mets, it's crazy because I think we knew the Mets sold a lot of players at the trade deadline, but that Alonso bombshell would have definitely taken the cake for like the craziest trade of the deadline if it had happened. And the fact the Mets are even willing to entertain offers for Pete Alonso, I mean, that's crazy in of itself.
And I forgot I didn't look at this right. So Alonso will be a free agent after 24. He has 1 year of arbitration left. And he got $14.5 million this season. I wonder what he'll get next season. If it'll be about the same or a little more, maybe $20 million for next season, and then he's a free agent. Man, I'm looking at his career and I'm thinking,
Angels.
No,
to replace Shohei.
Nah.
You need a first baseman, don't you?
They just brought up the one they just drafted this year, Nolan Shanuel. So it's funny how, he was the 18th pick or 13th pick, and they brought him up right away after 40 games. Speaking of the Angels, superstar.
How many A's?
Sure. I wouldn't call Mike Trout a superstar anymore, but anyway, he was back from the injured list, and now he's back on the injured list as this came up in the script. But I guess we can put this story to bed right here. There was a question, will a Trout return help the Angels and spur them to a postseason berth? And guess what? A few hours later, Trout's back on the IL with the same injury from the soreness from the injury he had from July 3rd. So I think we can just say no and move on, right, Isaiah?
I think Mickey Moniak could if he discovers his swing from a couple of months ago. I mean, Mickey Moniak was a force to be reckoned with a couple of months ago, and now
can he pitch, Isaiah?
What's that?
Can he pitch?
No, he can't pitch, but he can tear the ball off the cover, which is sure. But I think, it's no. I mean, it's crazy. Like this script was written like 3 hours or like now 6 hours before the show. And guess what? 6 hours later, it just changes like that. Trout injured again on the injured list, and Shohei, the elbow, most likely out for the year when it comes to pitching. The Angels are done, and Phil Nevin is probably done too as Angels manager.
Thank God. Let's get to the college sports segment. So, Mike Silver of the San Francisco Chronicle newspaper is reporting that Cal and Stanford are nearing the finish line to leave the Pac-12 like everybody else, almost, and will join the ACC conference in just football, men's basketball, and women's basketball. And this is what I hoped USC and UCLA would do with the Pac-10, the Big Ten, would just go for football, but stay in the Pac-12 for everything else. But we wondered, Isaiah, where Stanford and Cal would go. I mean, and in different sports as well. You would think with baseball, you stay on the West Coast. You got all these great players coming from California, even Oregon, Washington, Arizona. You want to stay out here if you're doing men's baseball, of course. So what's your opinion on Stanford and Cal almost about to leave the Pac-12 to join the ACC in football, men's basketball, women's basketball?
It's another wave in conference realignment. It's another, basically a death nail to college sports as we know of it and love of it. Enjoy college football this year, fellas. Enjoy college basketball this year, because college sports as a whole will just never be the same after this season. This is the end of college sports as we love it and know of it. And James, my thoughts on Cal and Stanford, it makes no sense. Like, it's just a weird fit. Like, Cal and Stanford going to the ACC.
It's way over there.
ACC to be with Duke, North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State. It's like, what? Like it just makes no sense. Like, if Cal and Stanford had moved to the Big Ten, sure. If they had moved to the Mountain West, okay, sure. But it's like Hawaii going to the SEC. Like, what? Cal and Stanford going to the ACC. Whoever the Cal and Stanford president both need to be fired for this idea. I mean, this is just stupid. That's what this is. Now you're going to travel across the country every single week to play teams like Florida State, North Carolina, Duke, Clemson. Like, dude, imagine Stanford versus Clemson, James. Imagine Cal versus Clemson. Clemson would win 80-17 every single week. And, like, they're going to Berkeley. They're going to come to Palo Alto. Like, it just makes no sense for all parties involved. Like, I don't know. I think this is really dumb for Cal and Stanford's part, and also the ACC part. Like, I would understand if you're bringing in Mississippi State, or you're bringing in, like, Vanderbilt, or you're bringing in Tennessee or whomever, like, fine. But why are you bringing in Cal and Stanford? It makes no sense. They suck at football, first of all, so they don't add any value to that. Basketball-wise, Cal sucks at basketball. Stanford's all right at men's basketball. Women's basketball, they're great, but you're adding them only for their women's basketball. That's it, and their brand as Stanford. But Stanford's not really like a sports school. They're more like an academic school. So it just doesn't make any sense. And, I'd be honest to you, James, I'd be interested to see Stanford versus Duke, because you have the two academic powerhouses going at it. But it's just weird, like Stanford versus Duke in sports. Like, it's going to be like Army versus Navy, the battle of the military cadets. Like, that's what it's going to be like. It's just a weird fit. And the other teams, before you go, James, the weird fit, the other moves, right? Oklahoma, Texas joining the SEC, that was great. Like, I think it's a good fit for those two schools. USC, UCLA joining the Big Ten. At first, that was weird, but now with Oregon, Washington joining, it's like, okay, that makes sense a little bit. Plus, you have USC, UCLA versus Ohio State versus Michigan versus Wisconsin. Okay, you have some great matchups. Cal and Stanford versus Clemson. Cal and Stanford versus Florida State. Cal and Stanford versus North Carolina. Cal and Stanford versus Wake Forest. Someone tell me how any of these matchups are even interesting and how are they going to be competitive. It's a stupid move. It's a weird fit. It makes no sense whatsoever. It's a move that shouldn't have happened. And Cal and Stanford, honestly, they are better off in the Mountain West than joining the ACC. It's just plain old stupid.
I think both schools here, Stanford and Cal, they were just going what was left for a semi-big conference, right? They didn't want to go down a conference, to the Mountain West or to another one. They wanted to go to a bigger conference that was left because you know how certain conferences didn't want them, or they would have had to pay more to get in there. I think they were just stuck with this option, and it could happen. That's what I think. And again, all of this is bad. All this movement is just bad. Speaking of movement, and this will lead into my final thoughts as well with something that happened with Stephen A. Smith today. I don't know if you know about it, but I'll bring it up in my final thoughts. Remind me. Shannon Sharp in our sports media segment will join Stephen A. Smith on ESPN's First Take start every Monday and Tuesday. Meanwhile, Skip Bayless and Undisputed on FS1 will have Richard Sherman, Michael Irvin, Keyshawn Johnson, and Rachel Nichols to have a panelist, to have one of those people as a panelist to debate Skip Bayless every day. Huh? I understand Sherman, Irvin, Keyshawn, and those two together there. That was put together weirdly. Because you just see Skip there by Shannon in all those years. Well, they were together, 7 years it seemed like on FS1? But yeah, those two on ESPN First Take Mondays and Tuesdays for, of course, football. But then, yeah, on Undisputed now, I understand the first three. Nothing against Rachel Nichols. I don't find her as a debater, but more as a panelist in a way where she doesn't argue with you. She just has a story. She'll tell you facts. That's basically it. But I think Sherman against Bayless will be fun. Irvin, we've known, against whenever Steve entertaining. Keyshawn Johnson, I know he's been with ESPN LA, and he's had some fun takes there at ESPN 7:10 a.m. But what do you think about all this movement in the ESPN First Take and then on Undisputed?
Let me start with First Take, James. Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! I love watching First Take. That's my go-to show every single morning. And I love that show so much. And when Max Kellerman got booted off that show turned into straight hot garbage. And you had Stephen A. Smith rotating with guys like Dan Orlovsky, Mina Kimes, Keyshawn Johnson, Michael Irvin was there. The only guy that was good debating him, like on the rotating cast members, was Chris Russo, the Mad Dog. Like, you had the Mad Dog and Stephen A. just yelling. Yeah. You had those guys just like yelling at each other like all the time. It was entertaining. But nothing against, Mina Kimes, Dan Orlovsky.
Trash.
Ruffledge, I think, was on there. Kimberly
JJ Redick.
Yeah, JJ Redick was all right. But he's not really a debater. He's not really like a guy that's going to like yell at you and go back and forth. Jay Williams was awful debating Stephen A. Like, it was just an awful, like, cast. And, I know, like, they're still going to have that, cast of members debating Stephen A., which I hate. I think it should be one guy debating one guy for the entire show every single day. But but it's going to be good to have Shannon Sharp there because Shannon Sharp's a really good debater. With Stephen A, he brings the energy. Him and Stephen A are going to be like yelling at each other like all the time, James. And I can't wait to watch it. And also, this just goes to show you cannot doubt the worldwide leader in sports. Everybody keeps saying ESPN is dying. ESPN is going to be dead in a few years. Oh, ESPN is going down the tubes. Well, guess what they've got in the last year? Joe Buck, Troy Aikman. They got I forgot who they got. They got a bunch. They got Joe Buck. They got Troy Aikman. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they landed Michael Irvin before he went to FS1. They landed Pat McAfee as well, one of the top podcasters in the game. And now Shannon Sharp. They land stars, man. You might think the worldwide leader in sports is down, but there's a reason why they're called the worldwide leader in sports. It's because they lead the world in sports coverage. They're the best sports network in all of television history, and you just can't count them out. Like, you could have other companies try to go up against them, but like Stephen A. Smith said, you will never be able to top the worldwide leader in sports, and the worldwide leader in sports will always lead in sports and always win, and it just reaffirms that with this Shannon Sharp move. But I'm interested. I'll be tuning in every Monday and Tuesday and Wednesdays to see Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp go at it, and then Wednesdays, Stephen A. Smith and Mad Dog Russo go at it because it's just entertaining TV. But in terms of the Skip Bayless Undisputed thing, that show is going to be canceled in a year. Mark my words on that. That is no disrespect to the people that are part of the cast members. That's an ill cast group. You look at the cast group for Stephen A. Smith and compare it with Skip Bayless. Michael Irvin and Skip will agree on Cowboy stuff. They're always only to talk about Cowboys. It's going to be, I agree. Okay? Keyshawn Johnson, there's a reason why he got let go by ESPN. He was terrible. Rachel Nichols, not a debater. She's more of a host, not a debater. And then I believe Lil Wayne is also going to be doing Friday debates with Skip. Yeah. Are people even going to understand him? That's the thing. No. He's not even a debater, James. This is awful. And Richard Sherman, that's the one I'm willing to see. I want to see, but besides that is awful. It's an awful group of members, and it's just going to make the show go down and down and even more down than it already is. And that show will be gone in a year. You can mark my words on that.
Or just be like me and don't watch any of it and live your life happy and free. And that's what I do.
Just watch me and James and Ben go back and forth.
I'd rather watch that and mute myself. Speaking. Okay, so my final thoughts, Isaiah. I have one. So yesterday morning, about 5:54, Michael Jordan got a text from Stephen A. Smith after Stephen Curry told Gilbert Arenas that Curry himself was the best point guard ever. And Michael Jordan text Stephen A. Smith saying Magic Johnson is the best point guard ever. So not Stephen Curry. And I definitely agree with Michael Jordan. They're all some of my favorite players of all time. But I consider Curry more of a shooting guard than I do a point guard. What do you think about all that? Do you think Curry we know he's the best three-point shooter ever. There's no doubt about that. I don't consider him a point guard in my opinion. He does make great passes and great layups. But if you ever watch Magic Johnson highlights, it's the true definition of a point guard. Just the best vision ever. We see a little bit of that in LeBron, Austin Reeves. I'll throw them in there already with vision. It's just some of the best you've ever seen. And they all got that from Magic, I feel like. With Curry, yeah, he does some of that, but he's just known for his 3-point shooting. And I'll end that on mine, but I'll get my opinion on that, or get your opinion, and then we'll close out the show. So what's your opinion on that, and then what's your final thought?
My thoughts on this, I agree with you. I don't really see Curry more of a point guard. He's more of a shooting guard. When point guards, I think of guys like Magic Johnson, guys like Jason Kidd, guys like Lonzo Ball, guys like Darren Williams, like those guys that are passers, guys that are pass first players. I don't think of Curry. Curry's more of a shooting guard, and he's a shoot first guard. Like, he's got okay vision, not the best in terms of like Magic Johnson and all those other guys, but I think that in terms of point guards, we're talking about point guards, right? Magic Johnson is definitely miles above Curry, because if you look at a point guard, the definition of a point guard, and this is why I said I would take Lonzo Ball over Kyrie Irving, a healthy Lonzo Ball over Kyrie Irving. Like, I think I said this 2 years ago, because when you look at the definition of a point guard, it's a guy that can pass the ball with great efficiency, a guy that can make his teammates better, and a guy that makes the team better. And when you look at Lonzo Ball over Kyrie, Lonzo is a better passer than Kyrie. Kyrie, all he just does is dribble until like 20 or like 5 seconds left, and then he makes a move and tries to shoot. Like, that's not a point guard. That's a shooting guard. So that's why I would take Lonzo, a healthy Lonzo, over Kyrie. But back to the Curry Magic Johnson thing, that's why I would take Magic Johnson over Curry, because Magic Johnson is the better passer. Magic Johnson is the guy that will make his team better. Magic Johnson, Curry's the better shooter and everything, but Magic Johnson is the definition of a point guard, while Curry is the shooting guard. If we're talking about better players, probably Curry, because he's the better player. But if we're talking about point guard, it's definitely got to be Magic Johnson, no doubt about that.
Oh, you're hurting my feelings. I'm triggered.
Hey, I'm part of the new school, James.
Come on. I know. I hate you because of that now.
I was gonna say, if he's healthy, I could have. If he was healthy, Lonzo Ball could have been on the same level as Magic. But we'll talk about that another day.
Isn't it funny? Magic drafted him. Isaiah, what's your final thoughts?
Over Jason Tatum too. Good grief.
Over need. They got need over talent. That's why.
Well, and then they brought back D'Angelo Russell a couple years later. But, yeah, my final thoughts, great show. Very electric show. A lot of breaking news to talk about on tonight's program. Sad day for my co-host right here. Great day for me, because this is now the official Brock Purdy era for the Niners. Like I said when I made my take about Brock Purdy, this is the football version of King Charles's coronation. Kyle Shanahan basically gave him the keys to the kingdom today, eliminated the final threat to the king, and said, hey, Brock, lead us to the promised land, my son. Lead us to the promised land. And now Prince Brock became King Brock today. It's a great day for all Niner fans, and I'm so happy for Brock Purdy. I know the work that he puts in. I can't wait for him to be my Niners starting quarterback moving forward. But final thoughts, great show. Hopefully tomorrow's not as electric as today. We need a breather from it. And we also need a breather from the hot weather. I mean, it's like freaking 12:30 in the morning right now, and I got a fan that is blowing max temperatures right now out here. So we need a break from the sun and the heat. And, I can't wait this weekend. I'm going to be seeing my guy, Adam Barber. We're meeting up for the first time. And, Adam, I'm going to tell you this right now, my man. Get ready for that Fruit Loop baked potato upcoming, because it's coming, my friend. That's the first thing I'm going to give you as your present, as your welcome to the Bay present, my man. So shout out to Adam. He's coming to the Bay. Can't wait to see him. J-Mac from Coast to Coast, Mess Around Dave from Coast to Coast, and their families, and also get to just drink wildly with them. So if you guys see me doing a live video, saying outrageous stuff, dancing about stuff, you know why.
Heard that before. All right, let's close this out. Thank you for everybody joining in. Thank you for having me on, Isaiah. I'm ready to go to sleep and forget about what has transpired yesterday in Angels baseball history. Everyone take care. This has been Sports Weekly. Bye, folks.
But I said, if you gave me Mahomes, if you gave me Lamar Jackson with his great legs and Mahomes' great arm, or you gave me Baker Mayfield, who would I want? I would want Baker Mayfield, and the reason why is because Baker Mayfield...
I really think that now this is the worst case scenario for the San Francisco 49ers, is that they're going to have to cut ties with Jimmy Garoppolo if I were them.
What?
Oh my God! Wow, man!
In any event, Kyle Gibson is definitely my NL Cy Young Award winner. Rock on, Gibby.
And
Oh my!
No way! Oh my God!